Greetings, friends. Welcome, seekers of profound and sacred knowledge. Welcome to the temple of the dividend discount models, where you will learn ancient and profound and wonderful techniques from all right, okay, okay, you got the idea, No, it's not as scary as it looks. At first, it's going to look a little bizarre and maybe look like Eastern mysticism, but very quickly, you're going to see that these things are really not that hard to use. Understanding them at first is a little difficult because we use funny words that normally mean something else to us. But please keep your mind open and don't worry about the math because there is no math. It's all arithmetic. What you should have before you start is a clean sheet of paper, scrap paper, and a pencil or pen, and your 99-cent calculator. That's all you need, folks. That's all you need as we tackle the dividend discount models. Starting on slide 6. One popular group of models of fundamental analysis are the dividend discount models. Shares of stock are valued on the basis of the present value of the future dividend streams the stock is projected to produce. So we're looking at dividends as our earnings, as our cash flow stream. Recall that the value of a stock is based on the present value of its future cash flows. So dividend discount models should be extremely popular, right? Well, not always. During the late 1990s, investors who adhered to these types of models were considered old-fashioned and outdated and fuddy-duddies. I remember the one gentleman on CNBC who throws chairs around saying how completely out of touch people like Warren Buffett were. But those investors who relied on the dividend discount models weathered the 2000 to 2002 downturn very well. In 2008, everybody fell down. Dividends have become important again because dividends don't lie. As we've mentioned, the one number that you can believe from a company is the dividends, the amount of dividends that they paid because they wrote you a check. Well, no, they don't write checks anymore. It's all electronic. But still, you get the idea. That was money in your pocket. So let's take a look at the first model. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we do that, let's take a look at the discount rate. What a silly name, the discount rate. Oh, that's where the words get in the way. The discount rate, that's why they're called dividend discount models, is the required rate of return that we choose to calculate the value of shares of a stock using the dividend discount models. Now, you don't have to use the term discount rate, but you're going to hear people say that in the industry. You could call it the required rate of return, the expected rate of return, the desired rate of return. It's what we are interested in earning from our investments. And the predicted valuations that these models produce are very sensitive to our required rate of return, and the results will vary wildly depending upon our choice of the required rate of return, the expected rate of return, the desired rate of return, the discount rate. Look, the fact that everyone has a different expectation, a different required rate of return, means that different investors will expect and demand different stock prices. Somebody might be happy with 6%, another person wants 10%, other person wants 15%. And I think Mr. Mark Twain, you got to be careful, though he's often attributed, quotes are often attributed to him inaccurately, but he said it very well when he said, it is the difference of opinion that makes horse races. And think about it. If everybody bet on the same horse, right? Exactly, it wouldn't be a race. And that's what's going on in the marketplace. Everyone's looking at the stocks differently and expecting some kind of a return. And then there are other people who just buy it because their brother-in-law told them it was a good choice. Slide number 8. The first version we'll take a look at of the dividend discount models is the zero growth model. This assumes dividends will continue at a fixed rate indefinitely into the future. So the formula is very straightforward, folks. Come on, you can do this. It's division. That's one of the 4 things that your 99-cent calculator can do. We take the annual dividends divided by the required rate of return. Okay, and that's how we value the stock. So let's say a stock is paying us $3 per share. The required rate of return is 6%. We would say $3 divided by 6%, that's 0.06, is equal to $50 per share. So if we were getting $3 per share and we believe that this stock is not growing at all, it's just going to pay us dividends, we would be happy to pay $50 per share. Does that look familiar to you, especially you math-friendly folks? It is simply another way to view the dividend yield. So here's the formula. We're assuming dividends will continue at a fixed rate indefinitely into the future. That's why it's called the zero growth model. And we take our annual dividends and divide it by the required rate of return. Well, if you remember back in chapter 5, and if you don't worry about it, just ignore this. Well, you should remember. You should remember the dividend yield formula. But if it doesn't make sense why the two are related, then don't worry about it. If you remember the dividend yield formula, that was the annual dividends divided by the market price. So what we've done is we've swapped these two, and that's something you learn how to do in arithmetic and math. We swapped this guy with this guy, and we changed it from the required rate of return to the dividend yield. And we changed the value of the stock to the market price of the stock. So basically, and again, if it doesn't make sense, don't worry about it. It's not important. Investors who emphasize the zero growth model are valuing the stock almost exclusively for its dividend yield. What is the current income the stock is generating from its dividends? So that is our value. We say, okay, we're thinking it like a save. We're thinking it like it's a savings account. Now, what's the difference? Right, the stock price goes up and down every day. There's no guarantee that it's going to continue to be paying those dividends. But with companies that are very old and mature and not going anywhere, such as a utility, right. You ever hear of Consolidated Edison? Con Ed, that's the utility company in New York that started in the, started selling electricity back in the 1880s, right? And they even go back further than that. Their current market price on the 3rd of September was $76.30. They are currently paying $3.10 per year in annual dividends, and they've been paying that for quite a long time. So the question is, what is our required rate of return? What do we want from the stock? Well, if we first use 8%, you take the annual dividends, $3.10, divided by 0.08, 8%, 0.08. Don't type 8% on your calculator, type 0.08, and you get $38.75. So the model is telling us that the stock is overpriced if our required rate of return is 8%. What about 5%? Let's lower our desired rate of return. Let's lower the discount rate, as it's called by the professionals. That's a value of $3.10 divided by 0.05 or $62. Oops, the stock is still too expensive for us if we require a 5% rate of return. So the market price of $76.30, the stock is actually yielding a little over 4%, 4.06. And people who are happy with 4.06 are the ones who are buying Consolidated Edison. The zero growth model works well for stable income producing stocks such as utilities. So if you were to see on a worksheet or maybe an exam or an assignment, a utility that has been paying a certain amount of dividends for quite a long time, you know to use the zero growth model. And it's very straightforward. Okay, we're going to go one step further. to the Gordon growth model, sometimes called the constant perpetual growth model, which to me kind of reminds you of the Department of Redundancy department. Constant and perpetual, aren't they the same thing? Anyway, the Gordon growth model, which is named after Professor Gordon at the University of Toronto, I think. Let's assume that dividends will continue to grow at a specified rate perpetually. That's where they use the perpetual word. I like the word perpetual because when you say it, you get to spit on your friends. This is the constant perpetual growth model, otherwise known as the Gordon growth model. So we're assuming in this situation that the dividends are going to grow. So the model gets a little trickier. Here's the zero growth model. Annual dividends divided by required rate of return on the left side. But what we do is we add a quantity in the numerator. We multiply the annual dividends times 1 plus the dividend growth rate. And then in the denominator, we add to the required rate of return subtraction of the dividend growth rate. So the required rate of return minus the dividend growth rate. Now, folks, if you're a little bit unsure, we should really put parentheses around the numerator and parentheses around the denominator. Make sure you do the numerator first, then do the denominator, and then divide. Okay, just make sure you do that because some people are a little unsure. They think they can do it all at one time, and the calculator will mess you up if you're not careful. So make sure you do the top first, then the bottom, then divide. So let's assume this stock is paying 5%. I'm sorry, let's assume that the dividend growth rate is 5%, and they're paying us $1 per share. So that means next year it's going to be $1.05. You see, dollar times 1.05 times 1 plus the dividend growth rate is $1.05. So our required rate of return is 10%. So we plug the numbers in, $1 annual dividends times 1.051 plus the 5% growth rate. That gives us $1.05. And then we take on the bottom 10% minus 5%, 0.1 minus 0.05 is 0.05 or 5%. Take $1.05, then do the division of 0.05, 5%, and you get $21. So the model says the stock is worth $21. Now, the marketplace has a different idea, right? You go out and see what the price is. It might be less, it might be more than what the model is saying. This is just saying the model. And if we change our required rate of return, right, the value that we place on the stock is going to be very different. So let's again take a look at some real life examples. On slide 12, this is a company called 3M. Have you ever heard of them? Maybe. You use your products all the time and you didn't even know it, huh? You ever use Scotch tape or Post-it notes? They're a Dow Jones Industrial Average stock. Their real name many years ago was Minnesota Mining and Materials. So in the 1950s and 60s when science and the modern world was brand new, everybody was changing their name. Alcoa Corporation, Aluminum Corporation of America became Alcoa, Standard Oil became Esso, and then Exxon, and Minnesota Mining and Materials became 3M. So the current market price is $193.75. They're paying $5.92 in annual dividends. So let's assume, say, the dividends are growing around 8%. So the dividends are $5.92. We assume that the dividends are growing at 8% a year, and we are going to assign a required rate of return of 13%. Very aggressive. So we plug the numbers in, the annual dividends times 1 plus the growth rate, 1.08, divided by our required rate of return, desired rate of return, expected rate of return, discount rate of 13% minus the dividend growth rate of 8%. And that gives us on the top, $5.92 times 1.08 is $6 and almost 40 cents. You don't have to be real precise, don't worry about it, but that's what the calculator says. $6.3936. 13% minus 8% is 5%, so 0.05. So take $6.39, somewhere around there, divided by 0.05, and you get about $128, $127.87. So it's selling for around $193. So it's not a particularly good buy for us if we require a 13% rate of return, huh? But what if our required return were only 10%? Let's just lower our expectations. And I'm sorry, what if our required return were only 10%? My apologies. Yeah, in other words, as we said back in chapter 1, if we get 8, 9, 10% from a stock, we're very happy. So $5.92 times 1 plus the growth rate is still the same, $6 and a little over 39 cents. But now 10% minus 8%, that's 0.1 minus 0.08 or 0.02, 2%. And that gives us a price of almost $320, $319.68. Whoa, what a deal. So do you see how the dividend discount models are very sensitive to our choice of the required rate of return? Indeed, right. And what if we were to change it to 7%? We'd say, wow, So depending on how much you expect from this stock is how you value it, according to the dividend discount models. So that was 3M. Would you buy 3M, a Dow Jones Industrial Company that has its roots deep in the economy and makes thousands of products, most all of them flat, like reflective tape and sandpaper and all kinds of other, they make, I think, tens of thousands of products. I forget the number. It's over 50,000, I think. Amazing company based in Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities. So let's take a look at our next example, and that's AbbVie. What a silly name, AbbVie. It was spun off from Abbott Labs, which is a storied company that has been a very good stock for people for many, many decades. And now AbbVie is another company that's on its own, spun off from Abbott. That's yet another very good company, although it's much younger. And their current market price is $113. Currently paying $5.20 in annual dividends. Again, let's assume that the dividends were growing at around 8% per year, and our required rate of return is 13%. So if we run the numbers, now you should be doing this, folks. Stop, pause the presentation, get out your calculator, you do these calculations, because you never know, I might screw up. I make mistakes. $5.20 times 1.08 and divided by 13% minus 8%. So $5.20 times 1.08 is $5.616, right? And then 13% minus 8 is 0.05. So you do $5.616 divided by 0.05 and you get $112, which is pretty darn close to the current market price. And if we simply reduce our required rate of return to 10%, then we run the numbers again, $5.20 times 1.08 divided by 10% minus 8% or 0.02. And that gives us $280. AbbVie looks like a screaming good deal. Now, folks, stop and think if, does this mean anything to us? Does this mean we should jump up, run over to our computer or call our broker or use our cell phone and buy AbbVie? No. The model is just pointing us to companies like AbbVie. We now have to spend a whole lot more time researching their products, their competitors, their customers, suppliers, downloading the annual report, taking a look at what other people say about it, read everything we can. Yeah. This is just the beginning. This is just pointing us in the right direction. This is by no means the definitive answer of whether we should buy or sell a stock. It's just getting us in the right ballpark, right? Getting us in the right direction. Okay, our third, by the way, AbbVie is a very good company, by the way, so check them out. The third example on slide 14 is Illinois Toolworks. Who are they? Why? They're one of those companies that you've been around for over 100 years. You've never heard about them, but you're surrounded by their products and you don't even know it. So there you go. It's a wonderful opportunity getting in the world of investing to learn about the world around us. There is no end to how much you can learn when you get involved in investing. That's what I love about it. I love it. What can I say? I'm not biased, of course. I just teach this stuff. All right, so Illinois Toolworks is current market price of $228.53, and they're paying $4.88 of annual dividends. So let's assume that the dividends, again, are growing at 8%, and you should, by now, have done this a couple of times, and you realize that the calculations are pretty darn easy, even though you don't understand what you're doing. $4.88 times 1.08 gives us $5.27, about there. 13% minus 8% is the 5%, so $5.27 divided by 0.05 is $105, not so good. But if we simply reduce our required rate of return to 10%, we run the numbers again, $4.88 times 1.08, or a little over $5.27, divided now by 10% minus 8%, or 0.02, and $263.53. So maybe we ought to spend more time researching in Illinois Toolworks and actually learn what they are. What products do they create? Who are their competitors? Who are their customers, their suppliers? Are they moving? Are they moving into different markets? Are they going international? Are they maybe they already are an international? So that's what you do. This just points you in the right direction. Now, Caterpillar. Huh? Who are they? Who are Caterpillar? Well, they make earth-moving equipment, construction, heavy industries. They're part of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, by the way. And their current market price is $211.84. Currently paying $4.44 in annual dividend. And again, we're assuming the dividends are growing around 8% a year. So at 13%, running the numbers, you should do this on your own, actually. Stop it. Pause the presentation and try it yourself. But it gives us $95.90 at 13%. $4.44 times 1.08. That's about $4.80. Divided by 0.05. Caterpillar does not look so good if we want 13%, but if we reduce our required rate of return to 10%, then the numbers look a whole lot better. $4.44 times 1.08, or $4.80, divided by 10% minus 8%, or 0.02, and gives us almost $240. So if we're happy with 10%, Caterpillar appears to be a good choice, but it's simply pointing us in that direction. We now have a whole lot more work to do. And did you know that Caterpillar owns Solar Turbines, which is a company that's been in San Diego for decades? They have a big installation right next to the airport. And sometimes you see this, it looks like smoke, it's just water, but it's pouring out of these devices right by, and people are like, oh, it's pollution. No, it's water. So Solar Turbines, a company based here in San Diego, is owned by Caterpillar. Okay, our last example is Altria. What a silly name. Who are they? Well, they used to be called Philip Morris. And they sell tobacco, Marlboros, Virginia Slims, right? And they used to be in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. They took them out when they realized that it's not a good idea to have tobacco in there. So they're the ones that sell the Virginia Slims and the Marlboro in the United States. They spun off a company called Philip Morris International, which is what they used to be called, Philip Morris, that sells the cigarettes outside the United States, even though it's based inside the United States. So it's a domestic company that doesn't sell any products in the United States. So figure that one out. But anyway, Altria is the company that sells tobacco here in the United States. And the current market price is $50.60, currently paying $3.60. Assumed dividends are also growing at 8% a year. So with that same required rate of return of 13%, we get $3.60 times 1.08, or $3.8888, $3.88, 0.8, divided by 13% minus 8%, or 0.13 divided by 0.08, or 5%, $77. It's almost $78. Our model says that Altria is worth $77.76 if we expect 13%. What a buy! If you conveniently ignore the fact that tobacco kills 400,000 Americans every year. Yeah, would you buy Altria? Who do you think is going to win big when marijuana becomes legal, eh? I think they've already said, I mean, the big three, Altria, Philip Morris International, and their big other competitor is British American Tobacco. They make Camels and Lucky Strikes. They've all said they want to move away from tobacco. They've all said that. They said in 10 years we're not going to be selling in tobacco. They're going to be selling it, but it'll be in, gum form or whatever. They're looking at marijuana. I don't know. I'm not in the boardroom, so I don't know. But I think they're gonna sweep up, because they know the business, right? They have the marketing, they have the distribution channels. But we'll see. That's why they call it the future. But I'll tell you my personal view. I don't want that stuff in my lungs, but I don't want tobacco in my lungs either. But I'm tired as a taxpayer of paying over $1 trillion for the war on drugs, and drugs are now more easily to get than they ever been since the war started. So how did that work out for you? Not so well. Yeah. So hopefully it'll become a lot like tobacco, in that we, tax it and try to give people avenues for getting better, for rehabilitation, for quitting the stuff. Cool? Okay. And I have a little story I want to tell that I think puts it into a little perspective, because there was a show on television for many decades, over 3 decades, and this is before cable was big and then the internet was big. It was the only place on network TV that you could find anything about investing. It was called Wall Street Week with Louis Rukeyser. He's since passed on, but it was on that communist-inspired pinko liberal network, PBS. The only place, PBS. Yeah, I figured that out. And he would interview Mr. Rukeyser. Very sharp man. Very, very sharp man. You can look on YouTube. They have a lot of his videos. He interviewed a gentleman who was a money manager who was very bullish on tobacco stocks. And Mr. Rukeyser wanted to sort of catch him in a little conundrum here. He said, well, I don't remember his name, I apologize, Mr. Smith, you're Muslim, aren't you? Not Muslim, you're Mormon. I apologize. You're a Mormon, aren't you? And he said, oh, yes, Mr. Rukeyser, I'm a Mormon. You don't smoke, do you? Oh, no, sir, I don't smoke. I don't drink coffee or alcohol. And Mr. Rukeyser said, well, how do you square this promotion, this belief in investing in tobacco stocks? So you see, it gets into the social. We talked about socially responsible investing, and he said, "Well, Mr. Rukeyser, there aren't any secrets. It's all common knowledge. Tobacco is very dangerous for you, but people choose to smoke it. People choose to ingest it, and my first concern, my dedication is to my investors. So I want to choose the best investment for them." Think about it. Would you buy Altria or British American Tobacco or Philip Morris International? Hey, who is that? No. Who are you?
You know who it is.
It's my conscience.
Come clean.
Come clean about what?
Fess up.
Fess up about what?
Where did you get the assumed dividend growth, huh?
I made them up.
Huh?
I made them up. All these companies are growing their dividends faster than 8%.
That's better.
Oh, don't state it when your conscience comes a calling. But see, The Gordon growth model is very sensitive to the assumed growth rate of dividends. Not only our required rate of return, but how fast the dividends are growing. And the recent dividend growth rates of 3M, AbbVie, Illinois Toolworks, Caterpillar, and Altria are all 8% or higher. Caterpillar 8.8, Altria 8.9, 3M 11.7, Illinois Toolworks 14.9, and AbbVie at an astounding 18.4%. But the model doesn't work if the required rate of return is equal to or less than the dividend growth rate. You get very weird numbers, zero division by zero, which is infinity, or negative prices. So therefore, we should actually raise our expected rate of return for all of these companies. All are actually better buys than what the model is telling us for our 10% or 13% rates of return. Now note, these are blue chip companies with long histories of rising dividends, having their roots deep in the economy, but they are not alone. They are not alone. Lately, though, however, it's been harder and harder to find good prospects using this model. Why? Because stocks are just very expensive. But even with the very expensive stocks that we're dealing with, we can see that these stodgy old companies, the blue chips with their roots deep in the economy, are still going to, unless the world ends, make us wealthy slowly. And I think it's a very positive thing for the world. I think the economy, the global economy, is growing. Millions of people, hundreds of millions of people, have come out of poverty. More are coming out of poverty every year. I know it sounds like an advertisement, but it's sincere. Nothing's perfect. Certainly not capitalism. It might be the worst system ever created for distributing goods and services to a population, except for all the others. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. The constant growth model. Okay. What's going on here? What's this look? This is math looking. Well, it's just arithmetic. And don't worry, we're not going to use this model. We show it to you to show you what kind of energy and resources have been placed into the ability to value stocks. So what this model is doing is it's taking the Gordon growth model, the constant perpetual growth model, one step further. We assume dividends will continue to grow at a specified rate for a specified number of years. So here, we've just as we added a couple of terms to the zero growth model, we're adding a couple of terms to the Gordon growth model. So here's the Gordon growth model in its math-looking version. Dividends, annual dividends times 1 plus the growth rate divided by our required rate of return minus the growth rate. So there it is. That's the same thing we just did. But now they added this puppy here to account for the growth for a set number of years. Okay, so 5 years it's going to grow this fast, or 10 years, or whatever. The problem is it's very difficult to estimate how long it's going to grow. But again, don't worry about it. We're not going to use it. We're just showing it to you to say, look, there are many models out there, many versions of the same model, and they get more and more and more complicated, I think, to our detriment, because the next one is taking the constant growth model one step further, and it's called the variable growth model, the multi-stage growth model, or the two-stage dividend growth model, assuming dividends will continue to grow at a specified rate into the future, presumably the fast growth stage, and then grow at a second, presumably slower growth rate once the company matures. Folks, look, it may look very impressive, especially those who are more math-friendly, but it has some serious problems. First, it's very difficult to accurately predict future dividend growth during the initial fast growth stage of a stock, because usually companies don't pay significant dividends while they're growing quickly. And then when are we going to decide when they're going to slow down? I mean, that's a dubious prediction at best. And we again harken back to Mr. Benjamin Graham and the Intelligent Investor, in which he had many decades ago warned against using overly sophisticated mathematical models to view stocks. Because what was happening in the 1950s and 60s with these new things called computers and lots of stuff from World War II, what they had learned about mathematics and calculations and the like. And they were just starting to add more and more and more complexity, and the models just simply don't represent the real world. But it looks impressive. And that's what's important if you're an academic or trying to impress your boss at the brokerage firm, even though none of your predictions are going to come true. Doesn't matter. Just as long as it looks good. Okay, slide number 20. Okay, it's time to take a little break here. Okay, time to sit back and say, okay, let's take a look at these dividend discount models. Let's take a look at some observations. How do you use these versions of the models for companies that aren't paying any dividends? And the simple answer is, you can't. Because if they're not paying any dividends, the result of the calculations is zero, because 0 times anything is 0. And dividend growth rates are very difficult to estimate with the large, well-established companies with their roots deep in the economy, the blue chips, the boring, the stodgy old companies. Historical growth rates may be useful, but with fast-growing companies in new industries, it's almost impossible. The problems of the dividend discount models notwithstanding, repeat after me. The value of a stock is based on the present value of its future cash flows. Okay, now go back over, watch this, listen to it, do the calculations over and over and over again. There's a worksheet that has a few calculations for the 2 worksheets, but actually, and hopefully I'll put together a third one. I'm working on that. For the dividend discount models. Because, oh my goodness, dear students, when we come back, we're going to take a look at the most powerful, fantastic, fabulous version of the dividend discount model in your humble instructor's opinion, the discounted cash flow model. Are you excited? I know I am. See you in our next presentation.